so much. You know, Debra's very humble because she has worked so hard to do what she's done and to pull this together and to get her book out, Networking for Novices. But it did all just start with a thought and a dream. And honestly, you know, we're here to talk about networking, but at the end of the day, what is networking, really? It's just an opportunity for us to share who we are. Yes, we are representing products, and yes, we represent a business or a service, whether it's your own or somebody else's, but the truth is, you are representing you, you know, and it's that light that you shine that will attract your clients. So yes, we're going to talk about networking, but I also want to talk about, and my part of the book, Networking for Novices, is, you know, being genuine, being yourself. And the word that always comes to mind, and one of my goals in life, is just to always be authentic. Because at the end of the day, no one is perfect. I'm so far from it. But as business people, sometimes we put on these airs, especially when we're networking, like, oh, hi, I'm so and I'm so great, let me just tell you why you need to do business with me. Here, take my card, take it, take it, take it. You know? Not very authentic, right? So in terms of networking, you've got to be really strong with who you are. Not about what you want, because obviously we're all here to make money in business, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. But it really boils more down to who you are, because no one will buy from you if they don't know you, like you, and like Virginia said, trust you. So how do you do that? How do you come across as authentic? How do you come across as genuine? And you know, there are little strategies for networking, obviously, you know, asking them, well, what can I do for you? How can I serve you? But it's all rhetoric unless you mean it. And you know how you meet someone who's networking and they say something like that, but you know, they go right back to their conversation of, you know, buying from me. It's got to be real and it's got to be authentic. And those are the people, if you think about, who are you most attracted to in your professional world? Or even in your personal life? But generally, it's going to be the people that are the most real, the ones that are just, you know, easy to talk to, they listen to you. So if you can think about that when you're networking, and really just, and this is going to sound funny, I literally envision myself sometimes with this, you know, those big shiny lights, like those floodlights or whatever, or stage lights, that's what I'm thinking of, where, you know, you put it on the actor or whatever when he's on stage. Well, most of us, when we go networking, we think that light is on us, don't we? Oh, I'm so nervous, what am I going to say? I gotta get my business cards ready, or if you're doing a presentation. But the truth is, and the way to really be genuine and authentic and to serve is to put it on someone else. And it's in you being genuine that somebody is attracted. They're like, oh wow, they want to know more about me. I want to know more about them now. Does that make sense? So we're all talking about networking and it makes a lot of sense, but I want to talk about something a little bit different, and that is, who are you? For just a second, let's take off our business hats. Because if you're not really strong in who you are, you know, it really doesn't matter what business you're in. So instead of giving out a business card, let's let the business card be you. Right? So who would that be? Debra did say that I do a lot of writing. I'm an author myself, but I also work with authors and getting their books published. And the best question I love to ask someone is, what is your story? I don't mean what did you write. What is your story? Because we all have a story. We all have gone through our life to bring us to this moment right now today. So what is that story for you? Debra just shared hers. You know, she had said she heard Zig Ziglar, and then she did this, and she did that, and before you know, now we're all kind of involved. But our stories shape who we are, right? Good or bad. Nobody's had a perfect life. But it's, again, if you're going to be genuine, you have to be authentic in sharing who you are. A little bit about my background. So, as Debra said, I did work for Zig Ziglar early on in my career. In fact, I worked for him right out of college for about 4 years. Amazing experience. I learned more in those 4 years than I probably have my entire adult life. And then I left and I went into the real world or corporate world and did that for about 12 years. And I'll be honest with you, I hated it. I was very successful, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I was in software sales and I did very well. I did. I could do it. I've always been good at sales, but I just wasn't being fulfilled. It wasn't me. So over time, I kept seeing myself, the real me, just kind of chipping away. Does anybody relate to that? And I got to a point where I was like, really? This is all there is in life? I wake up, I take care of the kids, I make breakfast, I get them off to school, I go to work, I come home, I make dinner, I do laundry, next, all over again the next day. And And at one point in my life, I was like, this cannot be all I'm created to be. And in my heart of hearts, I knew I was supposed to be doing something different. I knew I was supposed to be living my passion and my purpose, but I was so far from it. So a couple of years ago, I made a decision to really figure out what is it that I really want to do in my life? Because frankly, life's short, right? And I figured it out by going through a series of questions, which I'm going to go through with you in here in a little bit. But what it did for me was it made me realize when you are really working within your passion or your purpose, and I don't mean as a job, I mean as your being, you know, and you're shining, you're being authentic, and you're being genuine with who you are and who God created you to be, that's when opportunities start to come to you. You don't have to force it. I mean, truly, you don't have to force it. People come into your life that you would never envision coming into your life. It's almost like, and I'm not a big law of attraction person per se. I'm a big, you know, I believe that you attract things into your life. You have to do something about it, though. You just can't sit there and go, you know. You have to actually, like, do something. Like, you do attract things into your life based on the way you're thinking and feeling, right? But, so it's really important, if you want to attract the right kind of people, you have to first figure out, well, who are you? And what are you all about? And what's your passion? And what's your purpose? And how are you living it out? And it will make a difference when you network with whether it's somebody in business or a personal relationship. It's all a relationship. Everything we do in life is a relationship. So how you come across is really important. So for those of you who, I know many of you, and I know many of you are living your passion and your purpose, and you're doing what you love, and it lights you up. And you know how you meet someone and you just know, like, wow, they love what they do. How many of you feel that way all the time? I know you do, Paula. I can see that in you. Absolutely. How many of you would like to feel that way all the time? Better question? Okay. Well, let me give you a couple questions to ask yourself. Because until you really can't affect other people until you have figured yourself out first. So let's figure out, what are you passionate about? What's your purpose? This is obviously in a 30-minute period. This is a lifelong questions to ask. But number one, you know, what is it that you love to do? And I don't mean in terms of business. It could be business. But what is it when you're doing it, you just are having so much fun? You know, Jennifer, for you, it could be doing hair. You know, it could be with your clients. It could be coaching. It could be listening to people. It could be helping the elderly. It could be dancing. It could be singing, cooking, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But start writing down a few things that come to mind. That things that you love doing, and when you're doing it, the time just flies by. You know? That's the first question. The second question is, when do you feel the most empowered? And what I mean by empowered is, what are you doing when you know you're doing an awesome job? And it's probably when somebody compliments you and says, like, oh, you're really good at that. Usually, especially us women, usually when we feel empowered and we're like, we did a good job, we won't say it. We'll keep it in the back of our head, but we know. You know how you know, so you make a great meal, or you do a presentation, you're like, I did a pretty good job. So what is that for you? The answers to these questions really all boil down to who you are and what's your story. But first and foremost is figuring those things out. What do you love to do? When do you feel the most empowered? The next question is, and this is one where we all usually, or most people get hung up, is, what would you do if you know you couldn't fail? Now here's the thing. All of us as business people we can come up with excuses, and generally they fall into three categories. Number one is money. I don't have the money to do it, right? Number two, time. Well, I want to do that, but I don't have time. Where would I find the time to do that? And number three is failure. What if I fail? What if I don't do it? What if I start this business and nobody wants my service? What if I go to that networking event and nobody wants to talk to me? You know? So generally those are the things that hold us back in our thoughts. But if you can take off those blinders, literally, like, think of yourself like, you know those horses that have those side blinders on? When we set goals in life, I do believe that generally that's how we set goals. We base it on what we think is possible, and we stay within this little box. But what I want you to do right now is think beyond where you think you can go, and just dream. If you could do anything you wanted to, all the money you needed, all the time in the world to get it done, and you were going to be a success at it no matter what would you be doing? And for a lot of you, it's probably exactly what you're doing today. And if it's not, I'm not telling you to switch gears and switch careers while you're in this room, but something to think about though. Because where I'm going with all this is that until you know who you are, how can you be authentic? So another question to ask yourself is, we all are all going to die one day, obviously, so what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Meaning, what do you want people to remember about you? Do you want to start a charity? Do you want to run a ministry? Do you want to build a business that impacts thousands of kids? Or do you want to leave a legacy specifically just for your family? The thing is, no matter who you are, you're going to leave a legacy to a lot of people. Of course your family, of course your spouse, of course your kids. But you're going to leave a legacy to your community, to your employees, to your peers, your coworkers. You're going to leave a legacy in a lot of different areas. So what kind of legacy do you want to leave? What do you want people to remember about you and your business? And then ask yourself, well, what am I doing today to leave that kind of legacy? A couple of years ago, a friend of mine, actually I wrote about this story in my book, Winning in Life Now, and it's a friend of mine named Tom, Tom's in his early 40s, 42, 43, and just one of those guys who's really healthy, physically fit, he runs, he eats right, he has a wonderful family. You see them, they're the kind of people you see at church and you think they've got it all together, you know? Well, and they did, but Tom had a doctor's appointment, he had an annual physical, and he hadn't done it in a couple of years, so he went, and the doctor found something that was a little questionable. It was a lump, and he thought, you know, this is probably nothing, you're a healthy guy, you eat right, you do everything right, but let's just send it off to be sure, don't worry about it unless I call you. Well, they got a call, and they went in to meet with the doctor, and nothing could have prepared them for what they heard. And that was he had cancer. And he's 42 years old. But not only did he have cancer, it was stage 4. And they gave him 6 months to live. 6 months for a man that is healthy, physically fit, he feels like he's doing everything right, he has a great job, and he went through all these natural feelings of, the grief process, but he was mad at first. How could this be happening? How is this possible? And then he was sad. What if this really happens? And what if I'm not around? And then finally he got to a place of acceptance and he thought, no matter how I behave right now, I may die earlier than I want to someday. And so he made a decision. He said, you know what? For the rest of the time I have, I'm going to do everything I want to do in my life that I love to do. I'm going to spend time with the people I want to spend time with. I'm going to do the things I want to do. And that's exactly what he did. And one of the things Tom loved to do was to write. So every night when he put the kids to bed, after the kids were in bed, he would write. And he wrote stories. And he wrote stories about his kids and the trips they took, when they were younger. And then he also wrote about things that, in case he wasn't going to be around when they were older, he wrote about things he wanted to share with them someday. Well, Tom died 6.5 months after the doctor gave him the news. 6.5 months. But his wife said something to me right before, or I think it was at the funeral, something that he had said to her about a week before he died. And he said that he was actually grateful for the prognosis. Grateful. Who would be grateful for that? But he said without it, he never would have experienced what it really, really felt like to live. And that hit me with a ton of bricks. And that was around the time that I decided to take action and figure out, you know what? Life is short, and why are we putting all of our dreams and goals and desires on the back burner when we don't know how long we have? So it taught me to take action. And in taking action is when I figured out my purpose and my passion. And it's exactly what I'm doing today. And that's working with people and helping people and inspiring them and kind of pulling out the story, if you will, of their life and using it so that they can shine their light to other people. But you have to do it too. And once you do, whether you're networking, whether you're presenting, whether you're doing your business or just being you, that authenticity, it just radiates. And that is what makes somebody who's successful as a networker or in business.